I thank the chairman. Thanks for this hearing, and thank you, Mr. Secretary, for coming before us today. And I want to say my appreciation to you in your first year working with both sides of the Hill on our historic Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Just the other day, I got a message from a mom who told me that her withholding went down and her pay went up to the tune of $51.95 per pay period each month. And she connected it directly with paying for her daughter's biweekly health insurance premium. You know, that's exactly what I think the benefit of this tax plan is letting families have more of their money in their pocket to do what they need to do to help their family and to have their priorities met. And I got a note Friday afternoon from All Pro, which is a commercial painting contractor in Benton, Arkansas, in my district, that was so supportive of the act. Their plans are to buy new equipment and improve the compensation for all 27 of their employees. And then finally, I think that something that across Arkansas was very beneficial was 2 weeks ago the Public Service Commission announcing that for our shareholder-owned utilities, CenterPoint and Entergy, that the tax benefits that those utilities are getting by reducing the corporate tax rate will be passed through directly in lower utility bills for all Arkansans covered by them. And what a great way to say, here's a real benefit to your household that's not just seen directly, but indirectly from the tax bill. So thanks for your leadership. I'm sure it was a trial by fire as you left the private sector and came into Washington. So thank you. The other thing I wanted to talk about today from a regulatory point of view and FSOC's responsibility is the complexity since Dodd-Frank's imposition of the so-called Volcker Rule. We've had a lot of bipartisan discussion on that over the past years, and how can we deal with it? Chair Yellen described it as too complex to implement. Several bank presidents have come to this committee saying that it was too complex to implement. Our new Fed chair, just sworn in, Jay Powell, stated, I thought correctly, that trading desks needed Ouija boards to figure out how to comply with the Volcker Act. So I have a bill called H.R. 4790, which attempts to improve regulatory harmonization and coordination, something that you called for in the Treasury report, and also relieves banks under $10 billion from the complexity of the Volcker Rule. Is that something that you still personally support and would advocate for?
Absolutely. Thank you.
I want to remind my colleagues that the Federal Register, this is the Volcker Rule in the tiny print of the Federal Register. And all banks are trying to comply with this, Mr. Secretary, and it's just not doable. And when you have Federal Reserve bank presidents in the country saying they can't even administer the rule to tell a bank if they're in compliance with it or not, we got a problem. So I appreciate your leadership, but it's an FSOC matter that we get that harmonization. The other thing I want to mention, too, is on the subject of that my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are talking about, and give you a chance to respond. Clearly, you talked at length about sanctions on North Korea, Venezuela, and in Iran. I want to compliment you again on Treasury's work with both sides of the Hill to impose not only your economic sanctions you have control over at Treasury, but also working with the Hill on legislative sanctions here under Chairman Barr's leadership. Do you have a sense of timing on when you might follow through with proposed sanctions on the list of Russian inside oligarchs that has been so referenced by the other side today?
Sure. I can assure you that we have resources working on it right now, and it will be on a rolling basis over the next couple of months. And again, these same resources are working on, as you said, North Korea, Iran, and Venezuela. And there also have been significant Russian sanctions already done under our administration.
Well, this is something that I think we have strong bipartisan support on Capitol Hill, that we use the economic power of the Treasury, our trade strength as the United States, and our bipartisan ability to have legislative sanctions against countries and non-state actors that try to hurt this country. So thanks for your leadership on the national security front. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Time of the gentleman has